back here at the NRA National Firearms Museum, here at NRA headquarters with Jim Supica, director of the NRA Museums. Back here for more Curator's Corner on Sportsman Channel. Jim, we're in the middle of a very special series of Curator's Corners. You had an opportunity to head out to the NRA Whittington Center in Raton, New Mexico to look at some special firearms and talk to some special people. What was going on?
I was visiting, we've got 3 museums in the NRA museum system. The National Firearms Museum here in Fairfax, the brand new NRA National Sporting Arms Museum at Bass Pro Shops in Springfield, Missouri, and the Frank Brownell Museum of the Southwest at Whittington Center in Raton, New Mexico. And this is a spectacular museum. They're especially strong on, as you would guess from the name, the history of the American Southwest. And there's so much colorful history there, beginning with the Spanish conquistadors and colonists.
Oh, and you had a chance to sit down with Wayne Armacost, our buddy there at Whittington Center. Man, he is the heart and soul of that place.
He's the man. He's the director there. He runs the place. A great guy, incredibly knowledgeable. I don't know how he keeps up with all the ranges and the competition and the hunting that goes on there, but that Whittington Center is a treasure for NRA members and hunters and shooters.
And you had a chance to look at Spanish colonial arms of the Southwest with Wayne. So we brought that footage back. So glad to have it here on Curator's Corner. Take a look.
I'm Jim Supica, director of the NRA Museums, and for this week's Curator's Corner, we have a special treat. I'm here in Raton, New Mexico at the NRA Whittington Center, and we're in the Frank Brownell Museum of the Southwest, and with me is Wayne Armacost, who is the executive director of the NRA Whittington Center. He's the guy who runs this whole place. It's a remarkable operation, and why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about the Whittington Center.
Well, first of all, welcome. Glad to have you here.
This is so cool to be here.
Well, the Whittington Center just celebrated our 40th anniversary.
Wow.
And we were founded in 1973, and we like to consider ourselves the world's foremost outdoor recreation facility. We have 18 developed ranges, 33,300 acres of pristine backcountry area, camping grounds, cabins. We have food service available here, and then of course we've got the amazing Frank Brownell Museum of the Southwest.
Which is where we are, which is what brings us here today. And a wonderful theme. The location here is so historic. Absolutely. And it goes so far back into American history. I mean, everybody thinks about the Pilgrims and everybody arriving from the East, but there was the entire Spanish conquistador era and an incredible amount of history of the Old West. We're right on the Santa Fe Trail. Literally, we're sitting on the Santa Fe Trail. The Whittington Center is one of the few places in the country where the general public can still access the Santa Fe Trail. And the museum tries to do a good job of celebrating that history through the firearms, through the people that pilgrimed across the Santa Fe Trail. Yeah, and you cover literally centuries and do an incredible job of it. Talk a little bit about that history and about the eras that you cover as you go through the history of New Mexico and the Southwest. Well, you're right. It's a rich history here, and actually starts with the Paleolithic Indians and the Folsom Point, which was found not too far from here. But then when you start to talk about firearms, you have the conquistadors that did a lot of exploring in this part of the area, predating the Pilgrims. In fact, one of the oldest buildings in the world in the Southwest is in Santa Fe. But the conquistadors came through this area. In fact, we're holding a couple of the firearms they would have probably carried with them as they were traveling and exploring through this area. And this is really what gave them an edge over the natives. And these are incredibly cool guns. These type of guns, this era of guns, actually are very hard to acquire. They're tough pieces for a museum, and we've got a couple of great pieces here on display at the Brownell Museum. And of course, the conquistadors probably showed up with the very early matchlocks, which literally used a smoldering piece of string to ignite gunpowder, as simple a lock as you can imagine. And they go from that to this incredibly complex mechanism that you're holding here, the wheellock. Right. Definitely more than a burning string, for sure. You've got, like you said, complicated system where you have to have a key to wind the mechanism. You've got to have your powder, which needs to stay dry or it won't fire. You've got a complicated flint system, and then your trigger system, which would then activate and then fire the firearm. But this was, I want to say, a late 15th century development, and this was the height of technology for this era. It took somebody with the skill of a clockmaker or a watchmaker, which was your highest skilled technician from that era, to develop this. And just like you said, there is a spanner you'd put on there to wind that and hold that spring under pressure. And then you have that wheel that is serrated. And you don't really see it much, but the edge of it is serrated. You press this cocking piece against it, which would typically hold a piece of pyrite or maybe flint. And then when you pull the trigger, that flint is already resting against the serrated steel edge. The wheel spins. You create a shower of sparks. That ignites the powder in the pan. That ignites the powder in the barrel. And you've shot your gun. It works on the same principle as a Zippo lighter. You know how you spin the wheel against the flint? Exact same mechanism, but spring-driven and incredibly complicated and very expensive to make.
Well, and what's kind of amazing too, if you think about it, you had to have somebody that had precision technology, but then also be able to implement brute force and not mess up the precision. Because once you've shot this, you're done. It's not like today where you've got another one in the chamber. So you had something that could then you could defend yourself with the butt end.
Yeah, exactly. You reverse it and it becomes a club.
Right.
Very cool. Now, this is an Italian-made wheel lock. Certainly it's something that Spanish might have brought with them. This next type of mechanism that follows is something that is very typically Spanish and certainly would have been with the early conquistadors and Spanish settlers. And again, it uses the flint and steel method. It's one of the earlier methods of using flint to ignite a firearm. And it's called the Michelet lock. Now, it looks like a flint lock. It works like a flint lock. It preceded the type of flintlock that we usually think of, which is called a French lock. But the main difference is that more of the mechanism is on the exterior of the lock in the Michelet. They also have these very distinct cocking pieces, whereas the flintlocks will usually have more of a graceful swan neck. These are all right angles to hold the flint. This type of flintlock, the French flintlock, both work in a similar method. You cock the striking piece. This piece, the frizzen, works as a pan cover. It can be closed, and you're protecting the powder in the pan from the inclement weather. You're holding the powder in the pan so it doesn't spill out. But then instead of having to open that before you fire, firing the piece releases the flint to go forward, strike the frizzen, creating the spark, and igniting the powder in the pan. So the frizzen was quite a development. Now the Michelet preceded the regular French lock. The Spanish used this for a considerable period of time, even when the other type of lock was available, especially in the New World and remote areas where their explorers and conquistadors were traveling. Having this mechanism on the outside of the gun made it a little easier to work on in primitive conditions.
Well, it's exposed. It's not inside. You don't have to take a firearm apart, right?
Exactly. So it's a little easier to work on. This is no common Michelet. You have the gold decoration. You have this very unusual padded cheek piece. You see those on fairly elegant guns. So this may not have been over here with the conquistadors, or if it were, they were very fancy conquistadors. This was certainly an officer or one of the lead guys if they had it. But it's a cool ancient gun, and this is really kind of the beginning of the story of the history of the Southwest here at the Brownell Museum of the Southwest at the NRA Whittington Center. When can folks come see this?
We're open 7 days a week. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 4. We're open most every major holiday.
Wow.
And we just really encourage people to come out to visit the museum. You know, we have firearms from this early to modern times, to competitive shooting, to guns that won the West. So you can pretty much find anything.
I love this museum. What's the admission charge?
Zero.
I like that even better. Listen, if you're not in New Mexico, we have two other great NRA museums, the NRA National Firearms Museum at NRA headquarters in Fairfax, Virginia. We've also got our brand new NRA National Sporting Arms Museum at Bass Pro Shops in Springfield, Missouri. And if you can't get by any of those, or if you just can't wait, come to nramuseums.com on the internet, and you'll see some incredible guns there. Thanks for having me out here. I'm having fun.
Thanks for being here.
Cool.